Let me just come back just for a minute to our favorite topic, the '05 financials. With the letter of transmittal on Note 18 now being further looked at by Macias, if they were to make any changes that have not come through DPWG, I would recommend they come through DPWG. That between now and when we're finally ready to have them come back before the audit committee, there may be additional information that comes up, not simply through the review process, but just additional information, because as we found out, there have been these letters, there have been additional investigations going on, and from time to time it has to be looked at. So that could come up as well. The final thing is that we did reach, as the CFO mentioned, the COO mentioned, a consensus, but that consensus was with a reading into the record of the city attorney's objections that were set forth in a letter to the SEC. What was read into the record was an email from him to me, which then became the SEC letter. My caution on this is, as Mark mentioned, the purpose of DPWG is to try to reach a consensus. So I think the prudent course and the best course to defend yourself would be not to have in a record that a member of the DPWG had objections to the quality of the disclosure. It's not to say a consensus was not reached. It's to say that it's not good to have on the record the senior city official for legal advice having objections, because were there to be some problems down the road, that would be Exhibit A. Yeah, in short, my recommendation is to the extent we can get unanimity, that's clearly going to be the goal. How do we handle it to the extent that we have additional concerns raised by the city attorney in the record as the chief legal officer, were there to be a problem down the road? And the question is whether or not these particular items are material. We try to reach an agreement at the DPWG, and if we cannot, it comes before the audit committee to try to resolve. In dealing with these particular points, the one point on the composition of the DPWG, the determination was made that we would not try to address that because there was no other reference in the body of the document to the DPWG. The other point dealing with the actuary, the question was whether the concern, and he spoke to it, was not simply whether or not the city is moving forward at hiring an actuary or not. The concern was whether we're properly disclosing where we are. And the city attorney's concern was that there's a list of recommendations from Kroll with the implication that they're being moved forward. And his concern was that a reader would think the actuary was further along than it was. So the question was whether or not we could handle that by a parenthetical. So in my view, the concerns raised, whether we agree with them or not, are being raised with the purpose of trying to assure that there's full and fair disclosure and not for political purposes. So my approach is to the extent
was that an answer to his question? I'm sorry. Are you talking about something totally different?
I was going to let him finish, but that's okay.
Okay.
If I'm not being responsive, what?
No, and thank you, Ms. Atkins, because he was covering a couple of different grounds, and that's okay.